Patrick Harvie, your co-leader, most of your MSPs, I would imagine, are wanting to stay in government. So as leaders, can you not make that happen?
This is a decision for our whole party to make together. Just as we debated and shaped the Butte House Agreement itself, all of our members were offered the chance to set out what their priorities were for delivering a green programme in government, and then they all voted together. Our party members took that decision democratically. I think at this point, when there is so much genuinely shared concern about particularly the climate targets, but a number of other issues as well, it's really important for the party to come together and make that decision in a democratic way as well.
So how divided is the party then, do you think?
Well, that's what we have to listen to each other about. The party isn't at all divided on where we want to get to, of course, on climate. And absolutely nobody is saying that we wouldn't reach the 2030 target if we possibly could. But we do need to recognise the importance of telling the truth about where Scotland stands on climate. Scotland has been trying to be a world leader for years, and there have been too many politicians voting for targets, making speeches about world-leading targets, but then blocking or not bringing forward the transformational policy change that would actually achieve those reductions. Scotland, to tell the truth, is years behind where we should be on climate, and that's what makes the 2030 target simply out of reach. So who are these politicians?
The SNP government, they've been in power for so long.
Well, you don't need to think back very far to see many examples when, whether it was the first 8 years of a Labour-Lib Dem coalition or the years since 2007, when Greens have been advocating for transformational change and have been blocked. The only time that a budget fell, for example, in the Scottish Parliament was because the heat in buildings agenda, the insulation, the energy efficiency, the cutting people's fuel bills as well as carbon emissions. That's what we were proposing, an ambitious package, and that was blocked and not taken forward.
How much responsibility do you take as party leader for the disappointment of Green Party members?
I share that disappointment very much, and I take my share of responsibility.
What is that share, though?
For a number of things. I'll give you one example, right? One of the things that we're proposing to change now is to shift to multi-year carbon budgets. Now that's a little bit technical, but it's basically the approach that the UK takes already. It means that you don't have to ignore the variations in weather, for example. If you get a particularly harsh winter, that has a massive effect on your energy consumption, your carbon emissions.
Okay.
So a multi-year budget smooths out those peaks and troughs. I argued with the first Climate Act that no, I thought annual climate targets were more effective. I think I was wrong about that.
More broadly, what blame do you take for the disappointment of your members? The fact that they're talking of leaving government, and you're the co-leader of the party. What responsibility do you have for that? Well,
look, I think over the last couple of years we have brought in transformational change on a whole host of issues. We need to continue to do more.
Suggestion is your party members don't think that.
We need to do more to convince our party members that not only it is happening, but it will continue to happen and that there's more to deliver. I'll give you one example. The priorities that our members set go well beyond climate. One of the big top priorities for our members was rent controls. We have just introduced the bill that will set up a permanent system of rent controls for Scotland.
Nonetheless,
and if we walked away from government now,
nonetheless, your members are calling an EGM that might bring you out of government. Who do you blame for the dropping of the 2030 target?
The 2030 target cannot sustain in law. At the moment, we have a legally binding commitment to produce a policy package from government that is capable of meeting 2030 from devolved powers alone. That's what the law requires of us. It is now physically impossible to do.
So who's to blame for that?
The reason it is physically impossible to do that is 15 years of inaction on transport, on heat, on all of these things that haven't seen emissions.
So that's the SNP government you would blame for that then?
It's a long-standing problem, and I think every political party needs to take their share of blame for that.
Isn't it embarrassing to be having Greens in government, and the whole point of the party, the whole philosophy is about the environment, and actually not achieving what you set out to achieve in government? Is that not embarrassing for you?
We are achieving a great deal to accelerate emissions cuts, but
clearly not enough.
Action to reduce emissions is what we need to be focused on. And Scotland as a whole has been too focused on targets, as though having targets is an achievement in its own right.
But you were part of that. You were part of that. You acknowledged these targets. Are you not embarrassed that they're not going to be achieved?
I remember the final debate on the first setting of the climate targets, and I said very clearly to Parliament, these targets are good, but they're only good if they're going to accelerate action, and they will be missed if we don't see transformational change.
If you were in opposition, not in government, you'd be banging at the doors of the government, wouldn't you? You wouldn't just be trying to explain it away. You would be creating a fuss.
Absolutely would be banging at the door to accelerate climate action to reduce emissions, and that's what we're doing within government. The Heat and Buildings programme is the most ambitious of any part of the UK. The announcements last week on transport put demand management back on the agenda. That's the kind of thing that could not just reduce emissions, but invest in world-class public transport.
But it appears not to be working, and most importantly, your members don't appear to think it's working.
Well, I want to hear from all of our members. I know that there are members who are deeply disappointed, and I share that. There are some members who didn't support the Butte House Agreement in the first place, and they probably haven't changed their mind. There are a great many other members who see green action around the country making a difference.
You're explaining these things away. Do you think that this EGM will be a vote of confidence in you as co-leader of the Scottish Greens?
I won't take it that way. I don't think it's personal about that. You know, I've been in that role for quite a long time, and you know, the decision that we have to make is not just about our party's future. It is critically about our party's future, but it's about the future of climate policy and a whole host of other issues in Scotland. And if the decision that we make is to walk away from government as a party, I would worry that that would downgrade the action that we need to see.
Would that be a failure on your part?
I think walking away from government would be a mistake.
A ministerial announcement expected this week on the suspension of puberty blockers as recommended by the CAS review. We can't preempt what's going to be said, but certainly clinicians in Scotland have accepted it. But you don't accept the recommendations.
What I said very clearly is that the CAS report, whether it was intended this way or not, has clearly been politicised and weaponised. It has landed in a space in which we already know that transphobia is very high profile at the moment, including from some high profile politicians. There are those seeking to not just withdraw transgender people's healthcare, but withdraw their legal rights, withdraw their recognition in law.
Is it transphobic to question,
and even exclude people, transgender people from public spaces?
Is it transphobic to question, though? Is that weaponising? Is that not just legitimate query?
No, it's transphobic, certainly, to seek to withdraw transgender people's existing legal rights, as some people are trying to do, or exclude them from public places.
But what about very specifically the CAS review, just saying that the shaky foundations for certain medical treatments, and you don't accept that?
Well, look, I've seen criticisms on both sides about the CAS report itself, but even Hilary Cass herself, the named author of the report, has said that her report is being misrepresented in certain quarters.
But it's a fundamental thing. Stop the use of puberty blockers.
No, she said very clearly that there should be a pathway for young people to access those treatments. It needs to be done in a way that is better supported and collects the right data about long-term follow-up.
Okay, so do you accept the CAS recommendations?
She said that there should be that pathway. At the moment, as a result of the decision that was made at the Sandyford, there isn't.
Very finally, back to the EGM. If the party members vote to leave government, will you resign as co-leader?
I mean, I wouldn't expect to stay on in that role if the party had made a decision like that. But that, honestly, is the least important aspect of this question. This is about whether the Scottish Green Party believes that it can achieve more for the people of Scotland, for the environment, and for a better, fairer and greener Scotland by staying in government. I believe that we can. I'll make that case, and I'll listen to others who have a wide range of perspectives about what we're doing right and about what we could do more of.
Patrick Harvie, thanks for joining us in Scotland tonight.